My name is Baiba Vilne, and I will serve as your chair today. We have gathered experts from academia, high-performance computing centers, and the cloud industry to explore how artificial intelligence, machine learning, and advanced computing infrastructures converge to advance health and omics, data analytics, and research. And we will begin with 3 presentations, followed by a moderated panel discussion. So please join me in welcoming our first speaker, Dr. Nikolay Oskolkov. Formerly a senior bioinformatician at SciLife Lab and Lund University in Sweden, Nikolay recently moved to Latvia to become a group leader at the Latvian Institute of Organic Synthesis, and he will present AI-driven multi-omics integration for precision medicine, methodology, and applications. Please welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Baba. Hi, everyone. What a great forum. I'm very happy to be here and meet all of you guys. So I'm a bioinformatician and data analyst. I recently moved to Riga just 1 month ago and start working at Latvian Institute of Organic Synthesis as a group leader of the metabolic research group within the TargetWise project. And that's not my slides. I'm sorry. What I see, so first of all, I'm not changing the slides.
Can someone?
And it's, unfortunately, it's not my slides. I apologize. Yes, so that's correct. Now it's correct, thank you. Yes, so, many years ago, I have actually my background in theoretical physics, and then I moved to life sciences and started doing computational biology and bioinformatics at the University of Lund Clinic Research Center, working on genomics of type 2 diabetes. And also I was employed at this organization, Next Generation Sequencing Facilities and Life Science Facilities in Uppsala and Stockholm in Sweden called SciLife Lab. And during my career, I was running different diverse projects, and a lot of machine learning was used in this project. And today I'm going to share some of my experience. Hope it will be useful for you guys. So more specifically, I'm going to concentrate on this topic, one of my direction in my research, which is biomedical data integration. So I'm going to share some insights on methodology, what kind of methodology can be used for, intersecting of these different omics. So currently the metabolic research group is just me and Daniel Rivas, an amazing expert in AI and machine learning. And we are currently recruiting 1 more postdoctoral fellow, and 2 PhD student positions will be open later this fall. So if you're interested in working with me, just please let me know. So the multi-omics, for me at least, began almost exactly 10 years ago when I was working in Sweden, and many institutions in Sweden, many labs, realized that we had a lot of heterogeneous biological data types, and there was a vague idea, maybe we can consider all these different heterogeneous data together in some context. But at that time, no one knew what exactly we mean by data integration, how it's going to work. There was just a vague idea. But I believe since then, we've actually become quite mature in our understanding, and we even started teaching a course on data integration, and this course at some point became quite popular. It was bought a few times by different organizations such as Chen and Zuckerberg Initiative, so we were teaching it just for them. And the principle, the ideas from this course and what we learned working on multiple different projects, they were described in this primer publication from 2024 on predicting type 2 diabetes via machine learning integration of multiple omics from human pancreatic islets, where I'm sharing last authorship with Charlotte Link from Lund University. And so if you want to check the methodology of omics integration, I would recommend you to check this paper. So let me first start with introduction of what is the main challenge of data analysis when you work with biological data and multiple omics data. So it turns out that there is a problem with biological data. So first of all, we have lots of different data around us, text, time series, image. So our data, biological data, at least what I'm working on, they're quite different in terms of that they are high dimensional. So what do I mean by this high dimensionality of data, biomedical data? So I'm a data analyst, and for me, the data look like this. So it's a multi-dimensional arrays, or matrices in the simplest form. And these matrices, they have two dimensions, what I call dimension of statistical observations and dimension of features. And this dimension of features, the number of biological variables you measure in an experiment, this is what actually sets the dimensionality of your data. And the natural graphical representation of this matrix would be n data points embedded in p-dimensional space. And it turns out that for good, robust statistical analysis, you'd like to have as many data points, as large sample size as possible, and as few features, as few biological variables actually as possible. So you would like to have low dimensional data. Unfortunately, lots of our data in computational biology, life sciences, biomedical data, they're high dimensional. So unfortunately, they have to work with the opposite limit. It was the data coming from the opposite limit. When we have a lot of variables and very, very few samples. And that's a problem. So why is it a problem? It turns out that this is what actually sets this trade-off between the number of samples and number of features actually sets the type of statistical analysis you would like to use for your project. So I'm listing here just a few different popular types of statistical analysis, and I order them from hypothesis-driven research to data-driven research. So it can be mathematical modeling, Bayesian statistics, this is Thomas Bayes. And it can be, if you have a decent amount of samples, you can run frequency statistics, and this is Roland Fisher, one of the founders of frequency statistics. So it's a statistics what we learn in schools and universities with hypothesis testing, with p-value calculation, power calculations, etc. If you have a lot of data, maybe here there is a lot of potential and makes a lot of sense to do machine learning. So just to emphasize again, so we don't always do machine learning. There are lots of data where it doesn't make sense to do machine learning. So we're not running machine learning because it's cool, but we want to run it because there are certain types of data or amounts of data where it makes a lot of sense to do machine learning, to go beyond linear analysis and capture some novelty. So what happens if you ignore this trade-off between the number of samples and number of features? So there is a common pitfall in life science and computational data analysis, which is called the curse of dimensionality. And this is very typical for high-dimensional biological data, unfortunately. So I'm not going into the details of this problem, but many people in the field, they would refer to this problem as an overfitting or lack of generalizability of your model. So I highly recommend to check the literature on this topic, and this Nature Methods paper from Naomi Altman and colleagues, where they explain the curse of dimensionality pitfall applied to genomics data, for example. That's very interesting. Happily, we have a direction in life sciences where there is a prosperity of data, and this is single-cell biology data, single-cell genomics data, and as it's emphasized in this paper from Fabian Theis from Munich, single cells make big data. And so it's actually, indeed, it becomes almost a routine to work with millions of single cells, and this is very promising for machine learning. That's actually partly the reason why all this AI and machine learning methods, they're blooming in the single cell biology, and we even have our own single cell GPT model. So this generative AI and neural networks, they're very popular in single cell biology, and there is a good reason for this. So it's just a sample size. So they're really working with millions of statistical observations. So now let's define. let's introduce a few definitions. So what do we mean by omics integration? So what exactly it is? So if you check the literature, there are quite a few methods developed in this area, but all these methods, to my understanding, they have a commonality. There is a common thing behind these methods, and this commonality is explained on this scatter plot. So what I'm plotting here is one point is one sample or one individual, and these individuals can be healthy, sick individuals, or individuals at risk. So these samples or individuals, they belong to three classes. And the X, what I'm plotting as X and Y axis are actually omics compressed in terms of latent variables. So for example, if you have gene expression data and you can compute a principal component analysis on this data, and you just take PC1 and plot it as X axis. Now, you have a second omic for exactly the same individuals, maybe methylation data. You compute principal component analysis on methylation data, and you plot it as Y variable. So now, if you try to project in your mind these data points on the X-axis, you will see that all these three classes, they are basically indistinguishable. So you can't see any difference just using one single omic. You can't see any difference between the three classes of sick and healthy and individuals and at risk. They're intermixed if you're using just single omic. The same is true if you try to project these data points on the y-axis. However, if there is some sort of correlation, genome-wide covariance or correlation between different omics, and if you plot these two omics against each other in terms of latent variables, and if there is such correlation present, there is a way to linearly separate the three classes. This is the beauty of omics integration analysis. You start seeing patterns that were not visible in individual omics. And if you understood this plot, you understood pretty much about the methodology in multi-omics data integration. For example, there is one popular method in the field called Diablo from wonderful statistician Nikolay from Australia. And Diablo does exactly this thing, what I just explained on the scatter plot. So now, how do you know that the omics integration actually worked? I explained the principle. So how we do it technically. So we're trying to catch this genome-wide correlation using some different ways to compute latent variables on our omics. So how do you know that it was successful? So here we are using this machine learning mentality, and we are using prediction on an independent data set as a criterion of success. That's quite different from p-value based analysis from traditional statistics. I'll come to this in a second. So here we are saying, okay, maybe you can train a machine learning classifier to discriminate between healthy and sick individuals, and you can train this classifier on individual omics, and you can get some decent accuracy of discrimination, sick, healthy individuals discrimination. So ideally, when you put this omics together, you would like to see some boost in prediction. You would like to see an increase in prediction healthy versus sick individuals. So we are using this criterion of prediction as a criterion of success. And how you put this omics together, that's another art. So there are quite a few different methods. I can talk about all of them, but here I just mentioned some of them as very promising. I'll reiterate a little bit in a few seconds on these methods. So now, important point, what is very important to note here is that we're using principally this machine learning mentality here. It's very different from traditional statistics mentality. So I'm demonstrating how people would typically search for biomarkers in terms of, for example, genome-wide association studies. I believe most of you are familiar with this Manhattan plot, what it is. You know what Manhattan plot is. So it's basically a way to screen your genetic information for genes associated with type 2 diabetes. So this Manhattan plot is specific for type 2 diabetes. And you find lots of genes that are kind of linked to type 2 diabetes. Now, if you combine all these genes in a polygenic risk score in different ways and try to bring it to the clinic, to predict a risk of a certain individual for type 2 diabetes, you fail. So me and many other people tried to do it many times for complex traits such as type 2 diabetes. So basically it doesn't work. And there is a problem here. It's called the case of the missing, the problem is called the case of the missing heritability. And it literally means a lack of prediction. So here there is kind of a paradox. You find lots of genes that are linked to diseases which don't predict the disease. And this is this mentality of biomarker search one by one, doing statistical tests, looking at the p-values. It's very different from how machine learning people think. So they would start immediately with prediction. So they train a machine learning that predicts something. And it's not a black box. So basically here typical criticism is that, well, if you come from biological side, you probably don't want to predict, you want to understand the mechanisms behind biological processes, so why should you predict? So the thing is that if your model can predict well, you can always look inside and understand what kind of biomarkers, what kind of drivers affecting this good prediction. So there is always feature importances available from any machine learning classifier. And you will get this, ranked list of biomarkers from any machine learning model as well.
Nikolay, I'm sorry, we should...
Just the last slide. So these methods, out of them, I would highly recommend you to look at these graph intersection methods, which I would highly recommend. It's a good way to convert your data to some common space, latent space. So once you converted your individual omics into graphs, it's very natural to use a graph intersection method to keep edges consistently present across omics, and this is how you find commonalities across omics. So here, I think, for the sake of time, unfortunately, there are more slides to show, but maybe we can take them at the panel discussion. So, apologies for. Do I have how many minutes do I have? It's like I should be done now, right? Because here I have 5 minutes. Is it okay?
If we want to have some time for the questions, then...
Sure. Let me just quickly show you how it works in practice. This is what I wanted to cover. So this So this is our paper on multi-omics data integration, where we demonstrate these machine learning principles for data integration. So we worked on multiple omics from human tissues, from human pancreatic islets, and we were trying to predict type 2 diabetes and looking at what kind of biomarkers you discover in this way. So basically, this was like a typical workflow we used, and it's typical for machine learning, where you, so first of all, you split your data into train and test data sets. So you have to check the covariance between your different omics. So there should be some, correlation on genome-wide scale, a little bit at least. Next, you proceed with splitting your data in the train and test data set. And you do feature selection. It can be done in supervised or unsupervised way. Ideally, you would like to skip feature selection. However, remember the curse of dimensionality. So it helps a lot. This feature selection strategy helps a lot to combat the curse of dimensionality. So finally, you do data integration, and you check how well your predictions work on independent data sets by looking at the sensitivity and specificity of type 2 diabetes prediction. And what essentially our classifier learned, the integrative machine learning classifier learned, it learned to separate. So first of all, it learned to project the data into some strange latent space where these classes, different classes, diabetics and non-diabetics, they become distinguishable, and they can be linearly separated. So the way you test that your machine learning learns something useful is that you project the test samples on the top of this decision boundary, what's called decision boundary, and see whether they, end up, these test samples, whether they end up on the right, on the left-hand side of the decision boundary. So this is how you validate or quantify the goodness of your model. And so what we demonstrate in the paper is that the integrative model was significantly better than alternative classifiers trained on individual omics. So this was an example of supervised integration. So talking about unsupervised integration, I already mentioned the single cell that offers lots of statistical power to test all your integrative methods. And there are technologies in the single cell delivering multiple omics from the same biological cells. So this graph intersection method that I already mentioned, it's most promising probably there, to my experience, after testing many different methods. The principle is very simple. You convert your individual omics into graphs, keeping the pairwise connections between single cells, and then you keep or edges consistently present across omics. So if these two guys were connected there and here in three different omics, you propagate this edge on the consensus graph. So eventually what you get this consensus graph that you can use for clustering, maybe modularity optimization, community detection, etc. Lots of different cool types of analysis can be done on graphs. And this is what is actually also people are doing within SURAP pipeline within the weighted nearest neighbors method.
And Nikolay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm done. Apologies. So I have to acknowledge all my great collaborators from the TargetWise project, and I thank you guys for your attention.
Thank you, Nikolay, for this insightful presentation. I think we can still allocate some time for one very quick question. Can someone bring the microphone?
Normally for AI, the biggest challenge is data. You already touched some of it, but where do you get the data, and what are the biggest challenges at this point? Also, working in Latvia, for example, regarding data, and what would be your suggestions on getting to the data?
Yeah, so the data is a bottleneck. So my personal opinion is that in the life sciences and healthcare research, we don't have big data. We can't really, there is potential, but without, compared to other areas, compared to text, we don't have Wikipedia, we don't have that prosperity of data in the life science and in computational biology to really implement, fancy artificial intelligence models, unfortunately. So it is a bottleneck. It is a bottleneck. Single cell biology is probably the only direction in the life sciences where I would say it is a big data. It is a big data. Otherwise, UK Baiba, probably not. So to my experience, maybe someone will disagree.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Nikolay. Joining us online are Amit Batra, Microsoft's Chief AI Health Transformation Officer, and Emma Popova, Microsoft Healthcare Industry Lead. They will present Intelligent Health, Leveraging AI and Genomic Insights for Precision Care. So please welcome, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot. And I really appreciated the opportunity to be here today with you, although online, but we have our representatives participating, and they will take on-site participation in Latvia. So with Amit, we'll try for 20 minutes to walk you through what Microsoft is doing these days to get the precision medicine close to our customers, and how we can do, let's say, more with less. And we will start a little bit one step back from our colleagues from Amazon. And this is what is the situation of the data today. I'm working with that region in the last 8 years, particularly with Baltics. And I remember where and how we started with our first steps towards the cloud. We usually would like to give the message that we need to look for the cloud like an enabler, not a blocker, because usually when we are talking with when we are having everyday interactions, we see a lot of biases towards the cloud, towards especially when it comes to the PHI data. And it's not like we are working with the finance data or with the data from the energy industry, because here we have a sensitive topic around the personal information. So how the world looks today, unfortunately, the data are unused. We are talking about the EHR data, clinical data, observational data, imaging data. Usually all of this data lies on the different silos, not having the interoperability. I'm dealing with that interoperability in the last 4 years, and I know how hard it is for one small hospital to get to the standardization to current FHIR or Open EHR standard and to make a use of those data. And fortunately, the numbers are there. 97% of those data are unused. And just giving an example, how Microsoft is thinking about the data, because we have our Microsoft Research. These days, it's evolved to Microsoft Future. We are doing that research thanks to our partnership with many organizations with really safe use of those data. And because of the projects like INRI, Hanover, and many others, we were having the possibility to work towards that democratization of the images, to have the possibility to be in the early stages, creating a model for COVID, looking where the pandemic will expand, and give those models to the governments who wants really to implement the preventive mechanisms. And although those data are staying idle and used, still we have a lot of believers that democratizing access to the data will be very important for the success of their organization. We already have that mission supporting the companies to become frontiers, and this is very, very important also for the healthcare organizations, pharma, and policymakers and payers. Now we look that, especially with the hype of the generative AI, everyone wants to implement and use and leverage the AI for better outcomes. Unfortunately, without having a very strong data platform, this will not be possible. And I'm really proud to be in a company which data platform, healthcare data platform, is in the leading positions these days. And this is especially because of our possibility to do the proper interoperability, do it in the meaningful and safe way, working with the many different healthcare data standards, and have the possibility to infuse Azure AI, generative AI, having the possibility to help the customers leverage our models and develop their own models, including the fine-tuning and everything what is coming after, regardless of if we are talking about precision medicine, if we are talking about drug discovery, or many different areas where the AI will have impact for the better healthcare outcomes. And speaking on the high level, we are looking how we can embed our multimodals for analytics of scale, how we can empower the teams to have the clinical decision support, have the data-driven insights, because AI will not play a role only in the genomic research or into the clinical trials. It can help for the basic operations, as our recent ambient dragon portfolio introduced in several markets is showcasing the ROI and the savings which we are making for the doctors and nurses' time. For that, we need to have really a good data platform and AI-ready data. And nonetheless, our colleagues were talking about trusted security framework. So whatever we do with the cloud, we need, first of all, to be fully open and just discuss what are our concerns. Amit later on will talk about how Middle East and Africa are really having a tremendous and rapid growth, especially in the area of the precision medicine, because they trusted the cloud, but they implemented those certain controls which enable them to build the next generation healthcare solutions. Moving further, we truly believe that AI will make the next big impact into discovery, development, delivery. We already have, even in those countries, we have customers which are piloting the cover development with the data platform. We are looking for customers where we can go on the different drug repurposing, personal disease progression. I'm working more with the public sector where we are looking for those cases, how we can implement, how we can first analyze the different patterns, how we are doing the preventive mechanisms, especially mixing and matching what we have from the clinical records, what we have as an information coming from the different social providers, and how we can tie everything together to have really good clinical decision support or clinical research. And I'm sure that you will be more interested about the reference stories for which Amit will talk, and how we see right now the impact of customers like M42 are having. Recently, we announced our AI models into the Azure Model Catalog, where we are hosting also the models from different partners of ours. Thanks to the work with the different partners like Page and Providence, thanks to the Microsoft research team working on the projects like EMEA, we have introduced several models about the segmentation, having possibility to work together with the imaging data, with the pathology data, find anomalies into that, and have the possibility to introduce and give those models to everyone who can implement them into the clinical workloads, into the radiology workloads, and have possibility of completely automated way of identification, either of the disease development or different patterns change. And the last thing I want to mention is how we are bringing everything with our data platform and our models to work as one. And this is our agentic concept, where we are bringing together everything like we have as knowledge connectors, possibility to transform EHR data to the standardized health format, information coming from PubMed sources, AI and insights coming from the implementation of the health and the life science models, and how we are embedding that into the tools, having the possibility to talk with the system in the normal human language. We'll finish and we'll give the word to Amit. We were having some conversation with Latvia that when we start thinking about how we are implementing AI, either for the genomic research, for the precision health, for even building the simple healthcare dashboard, looking what is the hospital's outages, we need to think indeed how to start. We can give you an examples like the last case we were working on with Maria Curie, which implemented a simple copilot to have the possibility of summarization and referencing from the clinical studies. And this saves a tremendous time for the clinicians working on those researches. With that, Amit, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Emma. And good afternoon, everyone at PMNET. I really wish I was there, but unfortunately, we couldn't make it, so I'm calling in from Dubai, and nice to meet you virtually. Like Emma talked about some of the tool set that we have, some of the frameworks that we have, I will translate that into how this transformation is happening on the ground. So I'll start with some examples that are being done at population scale, then how AI is being leveraged in hospitals, and then going into research and precision medicine for individuals. So with that, Emma, let's go ahead and flip the slide, please. So one of our leading regulators here in the Middle East region really decided to leverage AI and agents to see how they could engage individuals in their wellness journey. Their mindset is to really transform healthcare to health. So we need to engage proactively at individual level, which we call the micro level, then get into a community level, which we call the meso level, and eventually at the macro level, at the state or country level. So we have designed and developed a platform that pulls in clinical data, social data, financial data, and look at behaviors of individuals and start performing interventions. The country where this platform is being put into place, like most of the countries, has tremendous challenges with obesity and diabetes. So those are the two use cases where they are building cohorts and targeting individuals and populations with the right interventions at the right time, at the right place. And all of this is happening where they have not expanded their team. They're using AI and agents to trigger these interventions. So this is where we start at the population level. On the next slide, we'll jump in and take this from a hospital, a provider level, where Microsoft and our partners are working on a smart hospital solution, because we all know the cost of running a hospital, maintaining the infrastructure to actually deliver proper care is really expensive. And like Emma mentioned, that 97% of the data is not utilized. We also consider the hospital data, the IoT data, the data that comes from your air conditioning HVAC systems, which is also not used. We are putting together a smart platform which would analyze your seasonal consumption and then provide you guidance on where you need to staff up or staff down and how can you save costs. And our initial estimates show up to 30% improvement in consumption of energy, and also faster bed management and rotation so that you can bring the right patients into care at the right time. And again, this has all been enabled by modern AI solutions where even non-technical people can chat with the data, ask questions, and make very rapid decisions without looking at dashboards. So now going further into a little bit into research on the next slide. Leveraging the latest security and compliance infrastructure, again, focusing on how do we activate data to deliver precision medicine. One of the key aspects is the right research. As you know, countries are not equally represented in research. A lot of the Western nations use candidates from their countries in the research. So we are building trusted research environments where countries can open up their data assets for a select research organization on a specific topic and help them develop medications and drugs that are specific to the right population. Again, with modern solutions, AI really helping the right analytics and speeding up the work. We're seeing research contracts that would take anywhere from 6 months being reduced down to 2 months. Research workspaces, which typically take anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks to set up, we are actually seeing days in which data is being made available and researchers can start in getting into research. Now, think about the impact of how we are cutting cost and reducing time for research and multiply that across the board, and you will see that there is a reduction in the time to market, there's a reduction in the cost of how the drugs are being developed. So again, a lot of this is being, I wouldn't say that the framework is new, but the tooling that has come to market and that we as Microsoft democratize, we are able to see a lot more activity that again delivers and brings that vision of precision medicine to reality. Last but not the least, one of our leading clients here in UAE, M42, they worked with the Department of Health in Abu Dhabi They kicked off a project to actually sequence 1 million genomes over 2.5 years ago. They've sequenced 900,000, moved them on the Azure cloud. We've reduced the cost and the time to process those genomes, and we'll be finishing up close to 1 million genomes early next year. Fortunately for UAE, we are in a position where we are even collaborating with many governments in the region to take on tens of thousands of samples and help them sequence their genomes, and not just providing them the BAM, CRAM, and the VCF files as raw data. M42 is also building a life sciences platform that can be utilized to do end-to-end analytics, provide insights to clinicians, then also drive interventions to individuals to really bring that promise of precision medicine to reality. So think about the previous presentation where we talked about a lot of technical work that has been done to really activate this data. And now with modern tools, our clients are developing these platforms by themselves and how they can really activate the data and really derive value from the data for individuals. So I'll leave you with this thought-provoking platform and presentation, and Emma and here are here for any more questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much for another insightful and forward-looking talk. We have time for one quick question. Otherwise, again, I myself would like to ask. Of course, it's a complex question, but indeed you said we would like to make the cloud more the enabler than the blocker. So what do you think? What are the major barriers to this? Is it the skill set, regulatory, financial, or cultural issues? Who wants to?
Emma Burnham.
I think it's thanks indeed for the question. I think the main blocker is maybe not the maturity of the colleagues or customers. It's more about not about the regulation, because I can assure you all of the big hyperscalers are more certified than any on-prem infrastructure, I would say, especially when it comes to the clinical research, trusted research environment, and so on. We have tons of publicly available information about the frameworks like TRE or secure processing environment. I think it is more about the understanding how one solution should be built and what will be the price of that. I think there is still bias that cloud is very expensive, while we see that the amounts of the consumption, especially on the pay-as-you-go model or doing a POC just to test something, is very, very small, comparable with everything you would implement on premises. This is the first thing. So this is indeed understanding how we are using the cloud, what is the whole cost, and how we are doing the optimization. And the second thing I think is the proper adoption and the cultural mindset shift. For me, these are the biggest blockers, because these days, we can have with the cloud interoperability or data platform, or what Amit said, preparing the data to our customers for days, possibility to share in a private way certain OMOP analysis with other research organizations. But just I am encouraging everyone to have a conversation with our colleagues, to have all of the questions asked, and we will be happy to answer and engage. Amit, you can share your experience.
Yeah, no, Emma, I think you covered it well. In my simple terms, I feel the complexity to go on cloud is different for individual countries. So there is absolutely the regulatory framework that needs to be managed. There is the capability and available of capabilities, another area. And lastly, I think it's the innovation appetite. And many times, different countries struggle with these three parameters at different levels. As an example, in the Middle East region, where I am, the appetite for innovation is so high because these countries know that if they don't innovate, there is no differentiator for them. So they are willing to innovate faster and more rapidly. And even if that takes a bit of extra investment at this time, they are willing to do that and bring in the regulators in the right way that really enable innovation. And then when they invest so much on innovation, the second step is to build capabilities accordingly. And you might be able to read online in the news that with Microsoft, we are running a 1 million skilling program for UAE, where we are skilling AI analysts and scientists up to 1 million in the country. And I believe we have similar initiatives in the UK and in Europe as well. So we know that to rapidly innovate and make the culture transform, you also need education. So the challenge and the opportunity, I think they're both at multiple levels, and we identify that and we work with our customers depending on where they are at to solve those challenges.
Thank you very much. Thanks for joining. And with this, I would like to thank all our speakers once more. And we now move to a panel discussion to take this issue forward, so to say. And here we would like to ask Dr. Nikolay Oskolkov, whom we heard earlier, to represent our research community, please. We would like to ask Līna Marta Sarma, who runs our national HPC center at Riga Technical University. And we would like to ask Dr. Renate Strazdiņa, who is Microsoft's National Technology Officer for the North Europe multi-country cluster. So thanks for agreeing to participate in this discussion. So Nikolay, let's start with you because you're doing these AI machine learning based analysis. So what would you say? What are your biggest, let's say, technological bottlenecks that you experience?
Yes, it's very relevant to the question that was asked from the audience. So the data is a bottleneck in my case. So unfortunately, yeah, and here it's important, I think, to say what is big data, what is little data. So I would prefer to have a data big in sample size, not in size, because data can occupy petabytes of space. It can be still pretty useless. So if you imagine a white noise, like a radio wave without any information, and if you make it digital and put in a file, it will be petabytes of space, disk space. But is it useful? Is it a big data? So basically what we are struggling for is to get data big in sample size. To do statistical analysis, you need to see, consistency, consistent patterns. And so in my case, we are still maybe missing the big sample sizes.
Okay, thank you very much. But we heard that 97% of the data is not being used. So why don't you get these data?
So it's this number of features, a number of samples. So basically, yes, so if you have a lot of measure and a lot of biological variables for just 2 samples, so it can easily be it can easily bring petabytes of disk space occupied. So people say, well, why don't we use this data? But can you really use this data statistically with just 2 samples and measure millions of markers? You can measure millions of biological variables on just 2 samples. So statistically, it's impossible to make this data meaningful.
Okay, but then maybe I will ask, indeed, we'll continue the discussion from the Microsoft colleagues mentioned. What is your opinion, indeed, maybe why do we have this 97% of data not being used, and at the same time, this could be used in resources like Azure Cloud. So what bottlenecks do you see actually? What do we have here?
I think when my colleagues mentioned 97% of data, so this was not about really genomic data only, but it was about all data. And I think this is one of the bottlenecks or challenges, because when we are looking at health data, they are both complex in terms of the data types, but also from technology side, there is a complexity, so this is one thing. Another thing that we see in our customer environments, that data are fragmented. It is an enormous amount of different systems, files, other sources of data. Some of them still in writing, because it is reality, handwriting, and so this is big part of the data. So the fragmentation, and again, even different types of data, this is another challenge. Then we are constantly talking about data standardization. We are getting better, of course. We are now more using information systems, even though it is also a cultural change to sit more in the device and talk to the patient. But still, so this helps in terms of data standardization. But we are not there yet. So this is another. And of course, culture, because we are used to work in one way. And for human beings, we all know it is very difficult to change. And then the last but not least, it is about trust. My colleagues already told, colleague from AWS also told, do we trust fully technologies and systems? Again, so this is something that we need to talk about. We need to show, be transparent, and gain this trust. So I would say, so it's really multidimensional, but I think we are discussing and we see the first steps that are already towards better data usage in the healthcare.
Thank you. And Līna, what is your perspective on this? I guess also the RTU's HPC center is being contacted, more and more people being interested in doing machine learning and using AI. So what data sets do they bring with them, or what problems do they encounter? What is your take on this?
Yeah, I was thinking while Renate was speaking about this, that we have this problem about, I think most of the situations revolve around kind of data curation, data preparation, and data cleanup. It's what we deal with. And usually the ball kind of ping-pongs on either side. So there's a problem, but who's going to solve it? And I think it usually ends up on the research side and on the research group side. But so far it has been kind of in between, that there's not always space in the research groups and the people who come to us. They could be a research group, it could be a single person also coming to us. And I was thinking about this, that it's not, I don't think it always should be their responsibility, or at least their task. And I think more and more so, there is this space for an HPC center or such a center like ours to also provide such a service. That's something that we've been doing through a project that you know about as well, the data creation. But more and more so, we come to this conclusion that there should be people and experts not only going into fields of providing expertise in interdisciplinary fields, such as like knowing how to use HPC with specific systems and so on, and how do you use them with this program and that program and this system and so on, but also with data preparation as well, because it differs from the field that you're using it. So this is medicine, biomedicine. But we have quite a lot of various experts coming in, and their data varies. And we need more and more expertise on how to prepare, how to clean up this data. So I think there's a niche that I was thinking about, starting to think about, yeah, this is coming into like in our area more and more so, that I think we need to kind of work towards this collaboration, that it's not always on the researchers' sides to come to this kind of solve this problem. I think maybe it should also be on the data centers side or the HPC services sides to have these preparations in place, or the people who help do it, and people who help curate it. That was what I was thinking.
Thank you.
And if I may, I wanted to add one more thing that is very important. So this is regulatory complexity, because in real life, so as you said, so there could be data and they are fragmented. We can manage this. So we got people with right skills. We even managed to clean them up, to do the integrations. And then the regulatory complexity comes in. And we also always need a data protection officer or somebody like this, just to go through and understand that we are compliant with all the regulations, and some of the regulations doesn't exist. So it is really complex if we are, adding also this element there.
Okay, yeah, indeed. And I guess if we speak about cultural change, the young researchers are probably also mainly our audience, the next generation. So, Nikolay, what advice would you give to the next generation or to the young researchers entering this field right now?
Yeah, like AI and machine learning.
If we continue, big data analytics in general, we can say.
Say they should learn statistics. So I mean, before starting using, AI and machine learning, you should learn statistics, because I think it doesn't work the other way around. So I've seen examples when people start, running neural networks without understanding like basic statistics, and it's usually not successful. So I would believe in the way when you start with basics and understand the context, like how, because machine learning is like a natural continuation of statistical analysis. It has advantages compared to traditional statistics, and it's important to understand what is novel, what novel signals you can learn using machine learning compared to traditional statistical approaches. So I think you should start with statistics and gradually migrate to machine learning.
Thank you. And I guess the same question we could also then forward to the colleagues. So let's...
I wanted to quickly add that I want to say learn how to code, but I like your answer better. Before you learn how to code, learn statistics, and then move on to learn how to code.
Just to continue, if you are talking about coding, then in the era of generative AI, I think coding also can be done with the help of large language models, especially specialized, as we know. But talking about young researchers, I would say, of course, you can learn and you need to do statistics, coding, understanding the frameworks behind. But most importantly is really to learn how to collaborate, because this will be always, all those projects will be in partnership. And it means that actually you need to be able to understand what those technical people are talking about. Of course, they will come and explain and will show how the platforms are working, because they are becoming more and more rich, as we also heard today. So there are many inbuilt capabilities that you shouldn't develop from scratch. There are there. You just switch on and then switch off when you do not need them anymore. But then you will need to always understand also and be able to explain why you are doing this. What is the value of the work, and there will be many more involved. So I think technical knowledge are important, but partnership creating and communication skills will be as important as technical.
Thank you. Indeed, I heard the keyword generative AI, so let's conclude this round with a future vision. So let's start again with you, Nikolay. How do you see how the field will evolve over the next, 2 to 3 or 5 years, considering that these generative models mature even more?
Well, they positively affect. They are promising, of course. I mean, the mentality of this generative AI, it's not new. I mean, the generative AI kind of is not new. I mean, the generative model, they existed a long time ago, before ChatGPT. But I think this idea of generative AI, generative model was popularized when ChatGPT popped up and the large people start talking about large language models. So I think it's a very useful skill to think in this direction, that you can create embeddings that capture something fundamental about your data. So you collapse a lot of data together into 2-3 vectors, which capture something fundamental about your data, and then potentially you can generate new data out of these embeddings, out of these vectors. I think in general it's useful to have this skill in your toolbox. If you do analysis, you have a toolbox with different tools. This is one of the tools that is useful to have it. I think also this, think about maybe molecular data as a text. This idea also came to, computational biology and life sciences with ChatGPT. So people realize that maybe DNA is a text, and a lot of, NLP, natural language processing methods can be used out of the box just for DNA analysis. That's also a useful skill, and of course all this advances in another field, they positively affect our field.
Okay, thank you. Then maybe Līna, your vision.
Just to add on top, so I'm not going to repeat what Nikolay said, but just to add on top, I think there's going to be, that's my assumption, a bigger and bigger gap between the people who know how to use these tools and understand them and use them in their kind of daily work life or research, and those who don't. And I think that gap is something that also I feel like could be scary. So we feel like it's now starting, we should try it out. But I think this moment where if you didn't kind of get on the train now, you might lose a big chunk of the skills that other people have. And I think that's something to think about for those of you who are here who are students. I think more so. I think it was easier when I was a student because the skills just get added to your degree. They don't get less. They just get added on top. So I think that's something to think about, that you should know how to use it, you should try it out, and you should understand it. And the next level that I've been thinking about consistently and seeing in our teams and in the experts that we're looking for, and it's not just about senior experts, it's also about juniors and interns, is the kind of meta understanding of things, either of how software works or how different network systems work, or networks in general, how they send messages, or how infrastructures work, computer level, so that you understand what you're doing with your software on each part of your kind of system or infrastructure. I think that's the next level where those people will be more in demand, and that gap between people who understand this and who don't is going to just increase. Yeah.
Sad, but
Very positive.
Renate, maybe you can
Positive.
us up.
Yeah, definitely. So the platforms that are compliant to EU regulation, even taking into account all the complexity that I mentioned before, are there already. And this is both, as we heard today. So this is also for researchers to improve their daily life, just to take out the jobs that are simple and can be automated. So it's already there, and actually researchers can start to use this literally today. And then, of course, in terms of research support, again, capabilities are developing as we speak. today we heard a lot, and tomorrow there will be something new for sure. And I fully agree that those that already are using, so they started the marathon and they started this run. And the question is, what will happen to those that will think a little bit too long? We need to be careful. We need to be cautious as always, but we shouldn't lose the momentum. And I think it is really important to start to try out and do and ask for advice, for support, and start with those simple tasks, maybe even like really administrative information gathering, something that is not so sophisticated, but it takes a lot of time and efforts, and sometimes you're just getting bored, but you need to do. And then when you are skilled enough already and you know how the LLMs work and what are the capabilities, then you can move also to other more complex processes. So it is really about starting to do. And one more thing is that we always need to remember and ask ourselves, are we using the technologies that are responsible by design? Because when we are talking about AI and AI capabilities, we need to keep in mind that we should be mindful about what we are using and how we are using. So that's why AI governance as a process should be in every research organization, and not only on the paper, but really by design in the processes.
Thank you very much. So let's use our natural intelligence to keep embracing the artificial intelligence, and let's burst to the cloud. Thank you. Thank you very much to all our panelists. Thank you to all the audience for being here. See you next year again.